Yo, what is going on, guys? It's Logan coming at you from Hunting Pros, and welcome back to another video. This is another one for the Shotgun 101 style series, where I teach you something about shotguns and hopefully make you a better shooter. This is Shotgun Chokes 101. I hope you guys enjoy. And before I get too far into anything, I would like to mention that this series is brought to you in part by Cartridge, an awesome ammunition company, guys. I use their shells exclusively while duck hunting and also while upland game hunting. Their shells rock, and I just wanted to put that out there. So for all you beginners out there, you're probably sitting there wondering, what is a shotgun choke? Well, today we're going to be talking about screw-in chokes like this one. This is a cylinder choke for my Beretta over-under shotgun. We'll get into what that means later. But what does a choke do? Well, a choke is a cylindrical device like this that screws into the end of a shotgun barrel right at the muzzle and changes or alters the shot column as the shot exits the barrel. So let's just dumb that last statement down a little bit so that we're all on the same page. Essentially, one of these shotgun chokes gets screwed into the end of a shotgun barrel, and what it does is it alters the way the pellets spread as they come out of the shotgun muzzle. So in front of you right now, I've laid out the 5 choke tubes that came stock with my Beretta over-under shotgun. And at first glance, you're going to notice that the metal thickness is a little different on each one, and that each one does have a set of notches at the top. Now those notches actually mean something. The more notches you see, the more open the spread pattern is going to be with the pellets. Now before we look back down at the table to go through those choke tubes, I will just note really quickly, not all manufacturers put notches on their choke tubes. The majority of them do. I know the stock choke tubes that you get from Browning or Beretta or Benelli or Stoeger or Franke, all of those will have those notches. Not all companies do that. Now they should somehow identify what choke you're putting in your gun. So I've seen it before where they're laser engraved on the side. I know some aftermarket chokes actually will have it written on there, what they are. Just make sure before you put a choke in, you know what that choke is so you can benefit from it and know exactly what you're putting in your gun. So let's go through what those notches mean. Starting on the left, 1 notch, full choke. 2 notches, improved modified. 3 notches, modified. 4 notches, improved cylinder. 5 notches, cylinder. So something that I really want to hit home before we move on from this visual is that the closer you get to a full choke, the more tight your shot pattern is going to be. Whereas the closer you move to a cylinder choke, for example, the more spread your pellets are going to be. Before we move on, I will just say, the 5 chokes I just showed you aren't the only choke tubes that exist, and I'll just put that out there right now. They are, though, probably the most commonly referred to chokes that you'll hear of. That being full, improved modified, modified, improved cylinder, and cylinder. On the tight end of the spectrum, where you want a really, really tight pattern, you might also find turkey chokes, coyote chokes, things like that, extra full chokes. On the more open side of the spectrum, kind of leaning towards the cylinder side, you'll also find different skeet chokes. There's also something called extended chokes, which stick out to the end of your barrel. They don't fit flush with the barrel, they kind of stick out over the end. This is an example of one. And this is also an example of a choke that doesn't have the notches on the end, but on the side tells you what it is. This is a modified extended choke. So you're probably sitting there wondering to yourself, Logan, why are you telling me this? And why does it matter whether something's tight or whether something's open? I just know that shotguns are supposed to spray pellets, and that's what I want it to do. Well, that's great. Shotguns do spray pellets. But the purpose of having this knowledge is so that you can pick the choke tube that best suits your needs or best suits the application you wish to use it for. So now I'm just going to help you put something into perspective. The tighter your choke tube is, so let's say we choose this full choke, the more pellets will be on target further down range than something open like your cylinder choke. So the way I like to think about it is if I'm shooting really close where I need a really quick spread out of my gun, I use a more open choke like an improved cylinder or a cylinder choke. Whereas if I know I'm shooting really far, I might choose an improved modified. I might choose a full. If I know my shot is going to be kind of in between, I will use a modified choke. And actually modified is probably my preferred choke because I have a little bit of both, right? I have something that spreads relatively quick, but still holds its pattern enough so that at a bit of a distance, I still get a lethal kill shot on a duck or a goose or a rabbit. So I am going to throw a little bit of a wrench in this, but I'm doing it for a good reason. Not all shotgun choke types can be paired with all shotgun pellet types. With that being said, For example, the 5 chokes that I had on the table down there, I can't shoot steel shot through the full choke. Why? It's not safe. It's outlined by the manufacturer of the choke tube. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't shoot because I don't know the specifics of the choke tubes that you guys are going to be using, but always check with your manufacturer guides before you shoot anything. Alright, so now we're at the point in the video where I'm going to show you how to install a screw-in choke into your shotgun barrel. So today I have my Beretta 687 Silver Pigeon 3 and 12 gauge. It has been proven safe. As you can see at the end of the barrel, plural barrels, there's no chokes in there. You might be able to see from that angle that there's a screw pattern in there. So I'm going to take one of the chokes. I'll put it in the top barrel like that. I like to hand screw the chokes until I can't really screw it in anymore. So I got it almost all the way in there. That's where this choke wrench comes in. So you're going to take the choke wrench, it has little notches. You're going to spin it until it's snug, and then I just give it a little tiny bit of a turn. You never want to over tighten it because you don't want them to get seized in there. That's the last thing you want. I've dealt with it before, it's not fun. I'd also recommend on the threads, you can always put a little bit of oil as well, just to make sure that they come out when you want them to come out. But that's how easy it is to put in a screw and choke tube. I figured I might as well show you as well how to put in one of these extended chokes. I have my Browning A5 barrel here. What's nice about these is you don't even need a choke wrench. I just put them in, you screw it until it goes all the way down, and once it goes snug, I give it a little bit more of a turn. Yet once again, never overturn it. Now that choke tube is securely installed in the barrel. What's nice about these is you can very quickly determine in the field if they're loose just by going like this on your barrel. Whereas the other ones, you almost need to put the choke wrench in there just to make sure they're still tight. And that's something else I would recommend when you're shooting a lot, especially. Always check your chokes periodically to make sure that they haven't come loose or anything. And something else very, very, very important to note is never shoot a shotgun without the choke in it. You will destroy the threads in your barrel and you're gonna need a new barrel after you do that. So guys, to put this all together, I went out the other day while I was rabbit hunting, brought some wax paper with me, brought a little bit of an OSB backdrop just to put that wax paper on, and I fired a full choke and a cylinder choke at 2 different pieces of paper just to show you the spread. Now, I will note, this isn't a scientific test by any stretch. I was right around 30 yards, I paced it off, I fired, hit the paper twice. This is just to help you guys conceptualize the spread difference between one end of the spectrum of the chokes that we've seen, being a full choke, and the other end being a cylinder, showing you how one spread quite a bit, whereas the other one had a very, very tight pattern. So before we go any further, I would like to note for this demonstration, I used Kent Bismuth, number 4 pellet size and 3-inch. The reason I chose to use bismuth and not use steel or something along those lines is that I know this bismuth shot is safe to run through my full choke. It even says it right on the box. I'm not sure how well you can see that. It says safe to use in any choke. I might overlay that while I'm talking here. But it's always good to note what is safe and what isn't, and that's why I chose to use this. Well guys, I made it out in the woods. It's a beautiful day, but it's cold and windy here, so I'm gonna try to make this happen as quick as possible. I paced off approximately 30 yards from the target I have downrange. I just took an old piece of OSB, jammed it in the snow, and put some wax paper over it, just so that you can see the pattern. Let's do it. I'm gonna start with the full choke. So next I'm gonna fire my cylinder choke from the exact same position, the exact same distance, using the same shells, and we'll see what happens. And this by no means was a scientific test, guys, but you're about to see the difference. Well guys, here's the results, and this by no means was a scientific test, but the top piece of paper here was a cylinder choke. You can see the pellets hit from both sides of the paper and hit from the top to the bottom. So it was a huge scatter shot at about 30 yards. The bottom piece of paper right here, I might have shot a little bit high, I was freehanding it, but as you can see, the pellets are very concentrated in one area right there. And that area is probably only about the size of a small melon. So that goes to show the difference between an open choke and a very constricted choke. Well guys, with all things considered, I'm gonna wrap up this video. I hope you all took something from this. The purpose of this video wasn't to get into insane detail. It was supposed to help beginners understand what choke tubes are, how to install them, etc. So I hope I accomplished that. If you guys did enjoy this video, please slap the like button, also subscribe, and stay tuned for next time.